The long-standing conflict between Israel and Iran has flared up once again. Recent months have witnessed a surge in military activities and bellicose rhetoric. The Israeli Defense Forces have conducted airstrikes targeting Hezbollah positions in Lebanon. Adding fuel to the fire, the situation in Gaza remains highly volatile. Hamas has launched rockets into Israel, prompting swift responses from the Israeli Defense Forces. This cycle of violence has inflicted heavy casualties and widespread displacement among civilians. The possibility of this conflict escalating into a wider conflagration weighs heavily on the minds of many experts. Leon Panetta, former director of the CIA, has expressed deep concern that the current trajectory could lead to a direct military confrontation between Israel and Iran. He argues that the policies of the incoming U.S. administration risk exacerbating existing tensions and emboldening certain actors in the region, potentially pushing the situation towards a dangerous tipping point. The international community is watching these developments with growing unease. Many countries have issued statements expressing alarm over the escalating violence and the potential for a wider conflict. The situation has sent shockwaves through the region, with neighboring countries like Jordan experiencing the economic fallout from the instability. Tourism has plummeted, and supply chains have been disrupted, adding to the sense of uncertainty and fear. The potential consequences of a wider war in the Middle East are almost too dire to contemplate. The region is already grappling with multiple crises, including the Syrian civil war, the rise of extremist groups, and the ongoing humanitarian catastrophe in Yemen. Another major conflict would only exacerbate these problems, leading to further suffering and instability on a massive scale. The United States remains a key player in the Middle East. It has been actively engaged in diplomatic efforts, while providing unwavering support to Israel. Russia has adopted a more neutral stance, calling for restraint and dialogue. The United Nations is addressing the humanitarian crisis in Gaza and mediating a ceasefire between the warring parties. Section 4. A cry for help, the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. The ongoing conflict has inflicted a devastating toll on the civilian population in Gaza. The densely populated strip, already grappling with poverty and limited resources, is now facing a full-blown humanitarian catastrophe. The relentless bombardment has caused widespread destruction, leaving thousands homeless and displaced. Hospitals are struggling to cope with the influx of casualties, and there are acute shortages of essential supplies, including food, water, and medicine. The international community has responded with calls for increased humanitarian aid to the besieged territory. However, access remains a major challenge, as the crossings between Gaza and Israel are often closed due to security concerns. This makes it extremely difficult for aid organizations to deliver vital supplies and provide much-needed assistance to those most in need. The images emerging from Gaza serve as a stark reminder of the human cost of this conflict. The international community must exert pressure on all sides to allow for unimpeded humanitarian access and ensure that civilians are protected. Failure to do so will only deepen the suffering and prolong the agony of those caught in the crossfire. Section 5. Averting a wider war. The situation in the Middle East remains highly volatile, and the risk of further escalation is palpable. Miscalculations or deliberate provocations by any party involved could quickly ignite a wider conflict with potentially catastrophic consequences for the region and beyond. The specter of a regional war, drawing in major powers and unleashing untold chaos, is a chilling prospect that should compel all parties to exercise restraint. The international community has a moral and strategic imperative to prevent this conflict from spiraling out of control. Diplomatic efforts must be intensified, with a focus on securing a ceasefire, addressing the underlying grievances that fuel the conflict, and finding a path towards a just and lasting peace. The alternative, a wider war with unpredictable and potentially catastrophic consequences, is simply too horrific to contemplate. The path to peace in the Middle East will be long and arduous. It will require courage, compromise, and a genuine commitment from all sides to break free from the cycle of violence that has plagued the region for far too long. The world is watching and hoping that sanity will prevail. The stakes are simply too high to fail.